Boom. Good morning. Buenos dias. It's another absolutely fantastic day to be alive. And today is an especially fantastic day because it is our 20th anniversary today. Me and Rachel are celebrating 20 years of marriage. And it's been so fun to think about that and celebrate marriage and life and family and all kinds of amazing things. And I just love it. You guys, since we met last time, Rachel and I, to celebrate our anniversary, we went to Ecuador, and so we hiked some big mountains there, some beautiful peaks, had some incredible experiences, stories that will blow your mind. I'm going to share them in the podcast because they take a lot of time to share. They're those kind of stories that you're like, are you kidding me? How you couldn't make this stuff up? We had some amazing experiences. You guys, we went to the Galapagos. And it was mind blowing. So we were on this. Oh, Rachel says it's the best trip ever to the Galapagos. So if the Galapagos Islands were not on your bucket list, we cordially invite you to put them on your bucket list because they're amazing. They're so fantastic. Rachel just keeps saying best trip ever. And we were able to get a small yacht, and there was enough of our friends that we had the whole yacht to ourselves, right? So basically it was a private yacht, and we went around from island to island. And because of COVID kind of situations, we were by ourselves in the Galapagos. It was unbelievable.
Well, it was their first trip. Well, not their first trip, but they haven't had many trips.
They haven't had many trips since COVID started. So in the last year and change, they haven't done much.
I'm grateful.
And we got to swim with you guys. One time I went out snorkeling, and below me were hammerhead sharks, reef sharks, and Galapagos sharks. It was incredible. Now I know some of you
swam with sea lions.
Some of you are not excited about the thought of swimming sharks, but it was really cool.
Penguins.
Sea turtles. We swam with the penguins and the sea turtles, and the sea lions would come right up to us. There was lots of babies, and so we're just in this swirl. You felt like you're in a washing machine with sea lions. It was unbelievable. And we had our own chef and smoothie maker. He was the bartender, but we told him nobody's going to drink alcohol, so just make us lots and lots of smoothies and lemonades, and it was amazing.
Virgin pina colada.
It was so cool. It was so fun. Oh, I love it, you guys. It was so good.
It was awesome.
So do that. This morning, Rachel's feeling the sweat coming off my arm. So this morning, we all had a great family workout, and then I got to spar with my kiddos. It was so fun. Now, I know most of you don't think sparring with your children is one of your favorite parenting activities, but it was a blast. I got to spar with Kaya and Kimball and Aaliyah.
And then, so I was up getting ready, and I then look at the family chat because we have a family chat with the whole family, and my daughter sent a video of Greg lying on the ground because I guess
my 14-year-old has learned very well how to defend herself, and she just instinctively need me where it hurts. And I dropped. So that's how I started my day. And then Parker and Devin were out running. They put packs on and ran to the bridge and back as fast as they can along the beach. So it's just a beautiful morning, you guys. It's just great to be alive and to be married for 20 years of awesomeness and bliss and adventure. It's so fun. Okay, so today let's just share for a second. Anything you're working on that you're excited about, anything you got going on, I love just hearing from you and connecting so we can kind of just connect with each other and support each other, cheer each other on. What are you working on? What are you excited about in your life right now? Just, you can throw it in the chat or jump on mic. Let's just connect real quick for a minute before we dive into strategy today. This is where you say stuff.
I guess I can share one little thing. I've been working on building a virtual organ we used to have an organ. Our church replaced theirs a long time ago, and it just sat in the hallway in the church for a couple weeks. So I asked about it, and they said, if you can haul it, you can have it. So we did that, and we had that for a while. But then when we moved, it wouldn't fit into this house, and so it sat in our carport for a couple weeks. And I was like, I can't have this organ just go to waste. And since I got it for free, we put it out on Free Cycle or whatever, and someone came and got it. But since then, I really wanted an organ, and so I talked to a guy who built his own and also built one for a school just out of like 2x4s and little MIDI keyboards. And so I've been trying to like put that together. And the exciting thing about that is you can do the whole thing for a couple $1,000s instead of like 10 or 20 or however much an organ actually costs. So that's been pretty exciting. But when I tried to download the software that he was using, it was really laggy. And so like you hit a note and it will take several seconds before it plays and then whatever. So I was like, I'm a computer programmer. I can write my own program, I'm sure. And so that's been, an up and down thing. And it was great and it wasn't laggy. But then when I programmed in the ability to change what stops are played, what sounds come out, then there was delay again. And so then I switched around and got something that was working, but then it was using up a whole bunch of memory. And so this morning, I think I got something where the memory is more stable, but it still is immediate sound. So that's just been an interesting project. That's
a fun project, man. That's super cool.
Awesome.
I love thinking through things like that and figuring stuff out. It's so cool.
I didn't even know that could be like a thing.
Right. That's awesome. Love it. Miriam says, finally finishing some decorating on several of the rooms in the house. Fantastic. Yeah. Love that. Rachel and I are super excited right now because you guys were totally remodeling like a little cabin we have in the mountains in Guatemala. So we have workers on it right now remodeling, and then we get down there and she's going to do all the decos.
We leave this beach house on Friday and we drive to Guatemala. So we're excited because the next step is fixing up our house there.
It's going to be amazing. And we get to go to Palenque. I don't know if any of you have been to Palenque or heard Palenque. We're going to Palenque and then Agua Azul and then into Guatemala. Vanessa and John, jealous, man. I miss Littles. I miss
Well, last night we had a lot of her, so.
So this morning, you're not going to be missing that.
Joy and all everything.
That's nice. It's nice. Oh, but I miss them. They're so cute. I love this. Okay, well, let's dive in. So today, you guys, we're going to talk. We got several questions come in, so we thought we'd hit some questions that came in from people that sent us questions. So we'll hit some of those, and I think they're relevant to a lot of us, and we can grab some principles and practices from those. And then if you have questions, we'll bring them out, and then, well, we got a couple of things that we can hit. So let's dive in.
Well, and the topic for today is strategy, and so this will tie in great because the questions that came in obviously are related to strategy. Everything's related to strategy.
Everything is strategy.
Okay. So the question is, what do you do when you've been crushing most of your goals for a good period of time, but you start to burn out and lose the motivation? Maybe the payoff isn't as sweet as you imagined it to be, or life throws you a few curves. The effort to maintain the new habits feels draining, and you wonder if it's worth it. While some goals and new habits are going great, a few just seem to be impossible, and you keep giving in and letting them slide.
So good. Oh, so good. And who can relate to that, right? Even if your camera's off, just move your hand just so you feel like you're engaged.
I would say if you can't relate to that, then you're not trying
alive. You're not alive. You're not trying.
You're not trying hard enough if you can't relate to that, because I think that is just it's a part of the experience. It doesn't mean
It's
it
part of the
necessarily
pursuit.
continues forever, but it, like, at some point, if you start pursuing anything, you're going to feel that at some point. What is that face?
Okay, I just made a face because I randomly happened. Hold on, let me find it. I came across some stuff. Oh, I know where it is. I'm gonna read it to you guys. So this was just happened by chance this week. I came across some stuff by William James. So I'm gonna look it up real quick while you're kind of hit some of these things.
Okay.
Because he talked about this very thing. He's like, most people, actually, I'm just gonna read this to you because it's brilliant. You guys know who William James is? He was a psychologist,
From like the 19th century.
just absolutely brilliant. And here's what he said. I'm just going to read this to you. Now, it's a little bit scientific-y, so stay with me. Don't let your eyes glaze over on this one, because it's incredible. And he's talking about this, like when we start
watching for your
yeah,
glazed eyes.
don't turn off your camera. Don't check out. Stay with us, because he talks about this very thing. When you start pursuing something, we hit this spot where you're like, oh, I don't know if I can sustain this. And we'll talk about strategies how to keep progressing. But listen to what he says. It's amazing. He says, it is evident that our organism, he speaks of our organism, our bodies have stored up reserves of energy that are ordinarily not called upon, but that may be called upon. They're deeper and deeper strata of combustible or explosible material. Okay, he's getting scientific here. You're like, I was like, what? And I was like, huh? What he's saying is we've got these reserves of energy that most of us never get to. We don't get deep enough. And he says they're discontinuously arranged, but ready for use. Here's the key. They're ready for use by anyone who probes so deep and repairing themselves by rest as well as do the superficial strata. Okay, you're like, what, huh? Most of us continue living unnecessarily near our surface. Like, of course, there's limits, but the plain fact remains that men the world over possess amounts, men and women, amounts of resource which only very exceptional individuals push to their extremes of use. Right. And he says later on, so basically what he's saying is like, we all have access to reserves, massive reserves that few of us tap into. And he says, because most of us stop when it starts getting the first obstacle of fatigue, he calls it, we pull back. And this is a brilliant, genius idea. And any of you who've done this before, you push through those first limits, you find reserves of more energy. Right. So I didn't anticipate using this in the answer, but like there's this point, we have far more energy and reserves of energy than we think we do. That's why, as parents, you can have sleepless nights and still get up and get through the day, right? And you can tackle projects. And some of you, you'll hit a second wind. Anybody ever done this? You hit a second wind and all of a sudden you just keep cranking, sometimes into the night on a project you got to finish, right? There are reserves of energy we can tap into to get things done.
Now, that's only part of the answer, though. Right. That's not the answer. Because I would also say that sometimes the answer, if you feel like you've been pushing and you're starting to burn out and to lose motivation, sometimes the answer is to take a break.
Yep.
Sometimes you shouldn't keep pushing.
Yep.
Because what happens when you take a break, and I'm not talking about just like taking the day off and sorry, I'm getting messages. I'm not talking about taking the day off and watching Netflix or something. Although, you know, whatever, sometimes that's fine. But what I'm talking about is like, I find for me, some of the best breaks are when I just totally get in a new environment and I have none of the same demands, none of the same routine or little of the same routine. So I can have this kind of new view on things. I can look at everything from a new perspective. So it's almost like you back way out on your life and you look down at it from like 30,000 feet and you look at all aspects of it because you're not in it. You're not in the middle of it. You're not in the forest. You're backing way out. Sorry, you're not staring at the tree, right? You're backing way out and you're looking at the whole forest. And when you do that, it helps you to really get more clarity, because sometimes when we burn out on things and we lose motivation is because we're starting to question if it's really worth it, which is part of what is in this question here. We're wondering if it's really worth it. And when we're doing that, that means we need to reevaluate and recommit. Either recommit or let it go. Because sometimes that's the answer. Sometimes we get burnt out and we lose motivation because intrinsically, somewhere inside, our soul knows that what we're doing is not really what we want to be doing. And so, or questioning if yeah, it's what we want to do, but man, is it worth all the effort? So we have to take that pause to look at it and analyze it and either say, you know what, no, it's not worth it. I don't really want to do this. So why am I wasting all this energy and effort on it? And so you get rid of it. Or two, you realize, you know what, this is something I do really want to do. I do really care about. I am really passionate about. I do really want a part of my life. And then you recommit to it, recognizing, because here's the other thing. No matter what it is you want to do with your life, no matter what it is you want to achieve, it's going to be a lot of work. Okay, there's just no getting around that. It's going to be, who is it that says, is it Grant Cardone that's like, it's going to be 10 times as hard, cost 10 times as much, and take 10 times as long as you planned on. Okay, and that doesn't seem like optimistic, but that's a reality of doing big, meaningful things. It's almost this lifelong pursuit. It's almost like you need to be willing to commit to doing this for the rest of your life type thing. And of course, that doesn't apply to every single little thing, but for the big stuff, it becomes a part of who you are. It becomes a part of, which Greg's going to talk about this, it becomes a part of your identity. So it becomes more than just a behavior that you do, but it becomes an identity of who you are. And when you're living at that sort of level of like, this is who I am, this is what I do, then one, you recognize it's a lifelong journey. You're willing to put in the work because you know the trade-off is going to be worth it in the end. And it actually does become easier because it becomes a part of who you are instead of just what you're trying to do.
Yes. Which, okay. Like Emerson said that. He said that which we persist in doing becomes easier to do. Not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that our ability to do is increased. That's a direct quote from Emerson. And it's such a powerful principle. And the other one, like Rachel talked about, is identity. For example, okay, let's do this for example. When I was 17, I decided like, you know what, I want to be super crazy healthy. And so I started researching it. And the research I came across was like, you got to get rid of carbonation and caffeine and soda and sugar. And back then, like
into weightlifting.
I got into weightlifting because it was kind of my outlet. Right. And you guys, at 17 or 18, well, I guess it was at 16 or 17, I could drink a 2 liter of Dr. Pepper and eat half a gallon of mint chocolate chip ice cream, and call it a meal. Only a half gallon. Right. And I'm like, that's amazing. I love this stuff. Oh man, that was like poison. It was just killing me. So I decided to cut all of that stuff out. Now, here's what's interesting. If I keep those things in my life, if I have ice cream always in my freezer, you with me? Roll with me on this one. If my freezer is, stocked with ice cream and I'm trying to not eat ice cream, I'm going to have this constant battle.
And it's exhausting.
Are you with me on this? Every time you go to the fridge or freezer, you're just like, this new goal I set is so hard. And it's this constant battle. It gets exhausting. And then one night when you're tired or emotionally exhausted, you're like, what am I doing? This is such a dumb goal. I'm just going to eat some ice cream. But if you remove the strategy, right, the system, if you get ice cream out of your life and then you change your identity, here's the key. I changed my identity. I don't eat junk food. It was an identity piece. I don't eat junk food. And when I shifted that, it made doing those things so much easier because it's an identity thing.
Well, and this actually ties in perfectly because then when we were engaged, so first of all, he's already got that. He's this identity of I don't eat junk food and I'm a weightlifter. Okay. Now we get engaged about a week after our first date, my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. Okay, so here we're starting our engagement with, he's already this healthy nut workout guy, and my dad is diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer. So when we go to Target to do our wedding registry, you know, and you go around with your little scanning thing and you scan all the stuff that you want on your gift list. And we were scanning, you know, utensils. And I'm like, oh, we need to get this ice cream scooper. And he was like, no, we don't need the ice cream scooper. And I'm like, yes, we do, hon, because I have a hard time scooping the ice cream with just a spoon. I need the ice cream scooper because it makes it easier.
I forgot about that.
Oh, I totally remembered it because it was like this mind-altering paradigm shift. I'm like, it's hard for me to scoop the ice cream with just a spoon. I need the ice cream scooper. And he says, we don't need the ice cream scooper. It's like, why? Because we don't eat ice cream. And I remember, again, this is why I remember it, because I remember it being like, oh, yeah, because we'd already had the conversation because of my dad being sick, and we, you know, it was directly connected to his diet.
Which had
but
been
that was one of those identity pieces of like, oh, yeah, right. We're starting out our marriage with this new identity of we don't eat ice cream. Now we do eat ice cream because we'll often make it ourselves and we make it, you know, healthy. But the idea there is this identity piece of this is something I don't do, right? We don't drink alcohol. We don't, you know, whatever. You decide what these identity pieces are, and then it makes those decisions easier because you're like, I'm not that kind of person. I don't have to decide. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to, you know, him and ha. It's just, that's not who I am. So of course I'm not going to have a cigarette or whatever. Okay. So.
Should I tell Oliver's story?
Maybe.
Oh, you guys, we have so much to cover here. Hold on. Well, and part of the question was here, we want to hit all this, right?
Well, and I want to touch on a couple other points here.
Okay,
so one of the things is we've already discussed. One thing might be, well, you just push through because when you push through, you actually gain more energy. The way to get more energy is often not doing less. It's doing more and then recovering appropriately. So the other part is maybe you're not doing the right kind of recovery. That could be a part of it.
So let's pause there for a second. Can I pause? So you guys, we've already hit a couple of steps, and I want to make this like concrete and real for you. Those of you who are taking notes, maybe you're making a list with me. I'm taking notes and making a list. So I want to make sure we hit on these. Like, one, you have reserves of energy you may not be aware of. Number two, Rachel mentioned, make sure you strategically and often step away into places and situations where you can totally reset. So can I invite all of you to do that? And it doesn't have to be big. Some of you may step away to your closet or your bathroom and you're just, I'm going to lock the door in the bathroom. I'm going to take a minute.
Or you go to Barnes and Noble for a day, or
yes.
I mean, ideally, if you can get away and go stay at a hotel, or, you know, go to the Galapagos, something like that. You want to try and get away so you have a minute Because here's one of the things I realized when we moved back to the United States, I had this aha that I'm like, oh my goodness, so many, because this was a new experience for me at the time. So many women, especially, are living in this day-to-day grind where they literally have no time to think about the big picture, the big dreams, the big goals. Like they just don't have that space to think on a bigger scale. So I think it's just so critical to do that. And every time I have done that, I have come away with new insights, new inspiration, new guidance that has made all the difference, right?
Yes, 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 yes. So, hey, before we move on for this, I want some ideas from again, none of us is as smart as all of us. Will you all just throw some ideas? You can say it on the mic or you can throw it in the chat box. What's for you a place where you can step away? I want everyone to have tangibles right now, something they can take action step on. So where's a place you can go to step away and reset? Just throw it in the chat box or jump on mic. Ooh, nice, Marissa. Yes, the shore of the river. If you got a river nearby, go.
Sometimes for me at least, it's having a ton of little kids. It's like a date. Like we're able to like get out of the house and away from them, gets away from the grind, right?
Oh my gosh, yes, right. And usually, especially if you got little ones, you're like, it might be an hour, but to go to a restaurant with just the two of you, and you're like, this is amazing.
Adult conversation without interruption.
Exactly. Yes, so true. So can I?
Oh, so they couldn't hear him. So
they couldn't
somebody
hear.
can hear.
I'll repeat it. So it's just going on dates, especially if you got little kids. Just go on dates, you guys. Just
to get away
get a
and
date.
have some time as a couple.
Just as a couple. Oh, it's so
Yeah.
good. Now this one's going to sound a little weird, but I do actually want to recommend that you have some solo time every once in a while. Maybe even it's just half a morning. You just take a morning and you go somewhere just you and do that. Rachel loves to go stay with her aunt. She's doing that again. She plans these trips, or she'll just go and do something, or I'll go and do something. There's a lot of value in just a little bit of time, just you. It's only you and maybe some books and journaling. Man, you can reset. But definitely thank you guys for sharing that one. Definitely as a couple, step away from family, right? You can almost do these retreats away from work or retreats away from family so that when you come back to it, you're back in. Here's some other good ones. I go to a coffee shop or a bookstore for a few hours. Amazing. A library. I can't go to a bookstore or a library without like this reset of like, there's so much information and knowledge and so many resources. I love that. Go to my closet, go to nature, go on a walk outside on my front porch by myself. Yes, Abby, I love that one. Just find this little place where you can just step away, right? Go to my bedroom, go skiing. That's a great one. I love that. Get up in nature like that. And then go to the shore of the river. We already hit that one, right? Love these ideas, you guys. I like the river idea. Got one within eyesight of my backyard. I never go down there. There's an area. We've got something so close, but we don't go. Started going on outdoor adventures with friends and my son. Some are pretty intense and a little scary, but it's great. We just got back from some intense backcountry snowshoeing yesterday. Oh, had to make a shelter and sleep in the snow. Awesome. Man, you guys went hardcore. That's awesome. Right? But when you step away from things like that, now you come back into your world and you're like, okay, I can see this differently. I've got a fresh view. I love that.
And I want to emphasize this because this has been something key in my life. I think anytime, this is what I want to point out here. Burnout and losing motivation have become increasingly rare in my life. Okay? I don't get that burnt out. I rarely get burnt out and I rarely lose motivation because of the strategies I use that help me maintain motivation and help me to recover, right? Because stress and recovery, we've got to remember that. Stress, we need increased stress in our life, but we also need increased recovery of the right kind. When you do that consistently, that prevents burnout. But one of the reasons that I don't have that much burnout and lack of motivation in my life is because if I do start to feel it, I immediately use one of these strategies. I'll back off what I'm doing. I don't just push through. If I'm feeling burnout or motivation or overwhelm, I don't just push through. I pause and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Maybe I need to do something totally different. Maybe I need to, take a break. I need to go somewhere. I need to have some alone time. I need to.
Should we do that right now? Like, let's come up with a list of recovery stuff. Let's do that real quick.
Yeah, but
note.
I just
Okay,
want to
finish your
emphasize
idea.
that when I do that, instead of just continuing to operate in burnout or motivation, then I'm able to get that clarity I need to get remotivated and then to be ready to go back at it. Maybe the same day, maybe the next day, maybe the beginning of the next week. But you don't have to keep operating in burnout and overwhelm and lack of motivation. If that makes sense. I just want.
Yeah. You need to respond to that text. Okay, so let's do that real quick. Recovery is huge. If you guys have not read the book, it's called The Power of Full Engagement, as though you need another book on our list of books we always give you guys. But it's an excellent book, The Power of Full Engagement, and they talk about increasing stress and increasing recovery. So let's do that real quick again, because I want you to have something strategic you can hold on to. Let's put together a list of ways you can recover. So again, go ahead and jump on the mic if you want. We'd love that, or in the chat box. What are some ways that are easy and simple to do, and you can do them frequently, where you feel like you get good recovery? Where when you feel like you're grinding, when you feel like it's just go, 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 you're just constantly putting out fires and you feel like you're losing motivation, how can you get some recovery so you feel renewed, refilled, re-energized?
And again, the ideas you already shared is one of those ideas of recovery.
It's one way for recovery.
Going to the river, going into nature, going on an adventure. Those are all forms of recovery. And those are specifically forms of recovery where you're going away, you're trying to take a break, you're getting a new view. But there are other types of recovery as part of strategy that we have to use on a daily basis. There's recovery that you should be using every single day.
In fact, I want to emphasize this so much. I wish we were all together in person. Like I want to emphasize this big time. Most people I work with consistently across the board, across continents, they burn out because they're not getting adequate recovery.
Yes.
That I would say that's the number one problem people burn out when they're chasing something, is they're not recovering. Mm-hmm. So let's come up with some really tangible ideas for recovery here, so it's not vague. If it's vague, you're like, oh, I need recovery, but you have no idea what to do, then you won't do it. And you'll just stay in these same patterns. So let's come up with some tangible ideas for you specifically that you're like, yeah, when I do that, I feel renewed. I feel refreshed. I feel ready to start again and re-engage with the kids and re-engage with homeschooling, re-engage with my goals and health and fitness and work stuff. I can re-engage with the demands that are coming from my employees or the calls that are coming in or the stressful situations. I can deal with this project if you're getting recovery. So here's one. Laura says, I'm like Rachel, my best recovery comes by leaving, right? So if you're like, I got to step away from this, plan it. Like today we're talking about strategy, get it on your calendar, like schedule time to get away.
And if necessary, because again, recovery, this is something we want to emphasize. This recovery is something that needs to happen probably at least daily. Sometimes, depending on how stressed you are or whatnot, it might need to happen hourly. Now, if leaving is your best way of recovering, well, then maybe you need to go outside every hour.
Every 50
or maybe
minutes,
you need
I
to
need to go to the store.
Or like you have to figure out or find something else that works too that you can do throughout the day.
Here's some great ideas coming in. So, I want to point this out what Laura said. She said, because I do homeschool and work and deal with house issues at home, in order to recover, I need to leave home. Right?
Which is
Great.
But sometimes that might just be walking outside.
Mallory shared some awesome ones. A date night. And I think most of you have heard this, that you should go on a date every week with your spouse. But in my experience, it's very rare the couples that actually do that.
We're going on a date tonight.
So, and we're going on a date tonight to an Israeli restaurant in Mexico. Yeah.
that goes.
Yeah. Go on date nights, make it a priority. And if your dates have been historically lame, go on better dates. Just step up a little bit, do great dates. Taking a nap. Yeah. So I'm not a napper. If
I actually was just reading something last night about the benefits of napping, and he said a 20 to a 24-minute nap can be beneficial for recovery and for helping you, especially if you've been learning things because your brain cleans out metabolic waste while you're sleeping. It can't do it while you're awake.
And it makes
And
neural
it
connections.
helps make neural connections, and it takes short-term memory and converts it into long-term memory.
Yep.
So he's like, if you've been learning a lot of stuff, you should take like a 20-minute nap to help you clean the metabolic waste and convert it to long-term memory. So yeah, naps can be great recovery.
Yeah, especially they found in that same book, The Powerful Engagement, they said that we oscillate during the day of when we have higher energy and lower energy, and usually after lunch and mid-afternoon is where most of us have a lull. And they said a quick nap there can be great. Meditation is another fantastic one. You guys try meditation. If you don't know how to meditate, find a podcast
Headspace.
Use Headspace or find a video on YouTube. Another one I want to add to this list here is yoga. And you're like, yeah, I should try. Like, just do it. Do it for 5 minutes.
Do some stretching.
Just stretch and just breathe. Do another breathing thing. Watch some Wim Hof videos and do some breathing techniques. Just you gotta strategically fit this in your day.
Moving your body. I was reading it again in the same book that was talking about naps, but I've read this before. There's this, one name for it is called the Pomodoro technique, but it's basically this idea of you set a timer and you work on something, whether it's homeschooling or work or studying or learning, until the timer goes off. It could be anywhere from 20 to 50 minutes. And when it goes off, you get up and you move your body.
Yep.
You walk around, you get a drink of water, you whatever, stretch. That right there helps a ton with recovery. That's a fantastic strategy for helping you maintain motivation and preventing burnout throughout the day.
So you could do something we've been using. I like to use this, especially if I have to sit for a long time or I'm going into projects. I'll use what's called a 50-10. And so every 50 minutes I get up and I do 5 to 10 minutes of recovery, and then I sit back down and go. Don't just grind until you're spent. Listening to another one on here, listening to an uplifting podcast or watch a video. Charlie said, a lot of times I have a lot of built up emotions or thoughts in my head, right? How many of you can relate to that?
Yes.
We get in our heads, man. And, we get going in there and it's just like, we get like this and then we close down. It's just round. You're going crazy.
You have to get it out.
So writing in a journal, huge one. It's such a great outlet. Just getting it out of my head and onto paper. Thank you, Charlie. That's a fantastic one.
Well, and I want to add this because people don't necessarily connect these, but I think they're very similar because this is something our daughter does. She's not great at writing. She has dyslexia, but she loves to talk and she loves to make videos. So she will make a video. It's basically she's doing a journal entry. She doesn't necessarily share them or anything.
Or even keep them, but she'll
keep them, but she'll make a video talking to herself, which is interesting. This day and age we're in, like, I think this is very much a millennial thing. Like, she's grown up with us having a YouTube channel, an Instagram channel. So like the idea of making videos is just very natural to her. But she also, I've noticed she uses it as a form of saying journaling or getting thoughts out of her head. It's an outlet. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. Here's another one.
And I think, sorry, I'm just going to keep going. Yeah. I use writing as a tool for that, blogging, and you use making videos because you'll get all these ideas about podcasts and stuff. And then that's your way of journaling it, I guess.
Love it. Man, keep them coming. You guys keep them coming. Love this. My husband and I are going away for 3 days just to work on really looking at our family and our finances, to evaluate everything we are and are not doing. Everybody, please do that.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
So valuable.
Is so powerful.
what's working, what isn't. We want to set goals, make big plans, big changes together. Any strategy suggestions for how to make this really powerful and successful and not just come home with no real solid plans? And I think you already have it. You already said it there. Do some dreaming together is like, what is it we want and what do we need to do to get there? What needs to shift here? And just go in with a big vision, big plans, just be excited, spend time, enjoy the time together and be like, hey.
Well, and one strategy I heard, which sometimes I like to do, is it's kind of interesting strategy, but I think it can be helpful. Is one of the things is like when you first get there, take a nap or just decompress. Because especially coming from the kids and the household and, you know, all of that, it's nice to just, and sometimes you can do that on the drive or, you know, before you get there, but it's nice to just kind of get there and be like, okay, let's just recover for a second before we get back into planning and dreaming.
And get some food. Do a few things that make it really nice. So get some rest, recovery, get some food, make love, do all those things. And then you're like, now we're ready to go. Right. And then just enjoy it all. I love that. Yeah. Good stuff. For me, exercise, any other people in here crazy like me that exercise is actually recovery? I go for a run or get a good hard workout in, I feel fantastic. Like, man, I'm ready to go. Let's do this, right? It could be something like taking a shower. It could be a healthy snack. Just take a break, walk downstairs, get some almonds, make a little healthy snack that's a favorite thing. Just put in things inside your day that creates recovery.
Making music or playing an instrument, you know, I practice the flute, so I'll do that as a form of recovery. Another thing, and I've talked about this strategy before, I kind of got the idea from Brennan Burchard, who calls it release tension, set intention. And I don't necessarily always do it just like that, but as I go between activities, so say I'll be working on something with the kids or maybe finishing a meal or whatever, then I just pause. I don't just go from activity to activity without stopping. I pause, and my kids will laugh sometimes because I'm like, okay, what's next? Like, that's the question I ask myself. I kind of just take a pause, take a breath, and I say, okay, what's next? And what I'm doing is I'm trying to be intentional. I'm trying to not just, because otherwise we do that. We look around, we're like, oh, I got to pick that up. I got to put this away. I got to do this. And I could easily do that and just go throughout the entire day like that, going from thing to thing to thing. But when I pause and I ask what's next, what I'm really asking is what's the next most important thing that I can do right now? Not the most urgent or not the most noticeable or not the most whatever, but what's the next most important thing? And I have an ongoing list of, you know, depending on categories, work stuff, personal stuff, family stuff, education stuff. And then also depending on how I structure my day, because I've got personal stuff in the morning and family and education stuff in the mid-morning, afternoon, and then, you know, work stuff after that. And so when I say what's next, I'm going off of those lists, depending on the time of day I have. But it helps me be more productive and intentional about what I'm doing rather than just responding to the next text or the next email or the phone call or the kid that's calling or all of that. I'm being intentional.
Which I think relates to, so I have a coaching client. It's so cool. He's doing the most like kind of state of the art, edge of technology surgeries, like full dental surgeries, right? Major stuff with cool technology. And he's doing it for homeless people, right? People have been on drugs, lost all their teeth, and people that are just in extreme poverty can't afford it. So it's really fulfilling to him, right? And gratifying, but it's all pushing his limits. And then he started another clinic. So he's like, it's like I have 2 full-time jobs and I'm like burning on both. Like, this is crazy. And I'm learning all this stuff. And he's really maxed out. And we visited this morning and we're talking about like, remember like the intentionality, but remember why you're doing what you're doing. Check in with your reasons, right? Just sometimes you're gonna be like, why did we decide to have children? This is crazy. Right? Remember why. Why are you doing the work you're doing? And sometimes occasionally you'll be like, you know what? Why did I start this? It's not bringing me the value I wanted. Like you might start a project or might decide to do something and be like, this isn't really what I want. And it's not bringing the payoff. And there might be some things you stop doing. But other times you're going to tap in with your big reasons, your purpose, and lean back into it. I have one more thing I want to share real quick. I know you got something.
And I wanted to comment on a couple of these things.
I want to put this in there because I'm realizing more and more, the more it's crazy. The more I meet with more people all over the world, the more I'm realizing very few people have fun enough. And I know that sounds crazy, but I want you to ask yourself, are you regularly and consistently doing something that is really fun?
And that can be fun to you. It doesn't have to be fun according to Greg Denning, or because I know we have different definitions of fun. And that's one thing that, I've had to develop in myself is like, well, I don't have to have his version of fun all the time. And it's okay to have my version of fun, which sometimes is, sitting by myself, reading a book. Like, I'm like, this is fun. I love it. Right? So you have to decide, you have to understand yourself to know what your version of fun looks like. But make sure that you're doing those things, because what is the point if you're not enjoying life and having fun?
Love it. Okay, keep on.
Okay. So one of the comments in here was, maybe the payoff isn't as sweet as you imagined it, or life throws you a few curves. Yes. The reality is there are going to be curves in life. That's what life is. Life is not a straight line, that is for sure. You think you're going to do this and you have your aim and you're going to go for it and you start on the path. Trust me, it is not going to be a straight line to get there. It's going to be probably all over the place.
But we love curves.
And up and down. Hills and mountains and valleys and all of that. That is life. So part of the process is recognizing that is life, and then having the strategies in place, because it's not about whether or not you're going to get thrown off. You are going to get thrown off. The question is, what do you do when you get thrown off?
Yep.
How do you recover from getting thrown off? How do you get back onto your schedules after they've been thrown off? Okay, that right there has made the biggest difference. And people have asked us about that a lot because of our lifestyle, right? We have this traveling lifestyle where we are often in new places and new situations and new circumstances and new environments, and yet we've maintained our routines throughout it all. And in fact, that is the one thing that has given our family the stability that we have.
Yep.
And the reason, if I do say so myself, our kids are turning out so great is because we have the strategies in place that help us maintain routines across space and time, right? We can be in a hotel in any country in the world. We could be in an Airbnb. We could be, it doesn't matter what country, what continent, what time zone. Our schedule, we could have spent the entire previous day traveling and everything went wrong and whatever. But as soon as I'm not going to say the next day, but as soon as we recover, right? We get the sleep we need, we get the food we need, we decompress a little, that next morning, we're back on our routines. It's that consistency right there that makes the difference. So getting thrown off is not unnormal, or getting the curves, thrown the curves is not abnormal at all. But it's what you do after that makes the difference. And then as far as the payoff not being as sweet, I think one of the biggest secrets, I don't know if secret's the right word, but realization, the best realization you can have is that it's not obtaining the goal that is the sweetest thing. It's the process of working on the goal.
Yes.
When you can learn to, when you can understand that achieving the goal, when you achieve the goal, like the satisfaction lasts maybe moments, maybe a day if you're lucky. But it's the process of working on achieving that goal and always having another one to work on. That's where the real meaning of life is found.
And the joy and the
It's
fulfillment.
not the achievement of it. Once you achieve it, okay, great. Like, you know, I achieved that thing, but it's the process of becoming the person who can achieve that thing that is more fulfilling and meaningful than actually reaching that benchmark that you have.
Oh, so true. So
So yes, the payoffs will never be as sweet as you imagine in your head that they will be. But if you can enjoy the journey of getting there, that's where the magic is.
love it. So good.
And then know that there's always got to be a next, there's always got to be, there always has to be another target you're aiming at. So even when you get close to reaching your target that you're working on, you've got to have something beyond it, or else you get to that point and you're like, what was the point? It was
And that's because as human beings, as striving people, we have to have an aim. We have to have something we're aiming at. And it needs to be a noble aim, a good aim, something that's inspiring and uplifting and motivating. We've always have something to aim at, which ironically we get caught up in this space where we're like, oh, I don't want anything to do, but that's deflating.
I think this would be a good place for you to tell the story of the people on the cruise and the next aim they're looking at achieving, because they're reaching a big goal.
So there was two brothers on our yacht with us in the Galapagos, and they have just been bussing it together. As you know, they created a business together and did really well, right?
They've been working very hard.
They've been working super hard and
at least 7 years,
making it a great product. And so, of course, because they were treating it with excellence, they just grew and grew and grew. And then they got an offer for somebody to purchase their business for many millions of dollars.
What? Just tell a number.
Okay, 90 million, right? So
$90 million.
They got an offer for $90 million. And so it'll close this month. And so now it was so fun. The conversations we were having, we're like, okay, now what's next?
You know,
what are you gonna do?
So we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner on this small yacht. There was 15 people, and you know, we all switch around and get to sit with each other and talk. And we sat with them. When we would sit with them, the conversation that they were, you know, engaging was, what do we do now? Yeah. Like, we're going to have more money than we know what to do with.
More money than we ever anticipated, and we don't have to work. So now what?
Now what do we do? How do you then, and the conversation was this, how do you then find meaning and purpose in your life?
What do you do with your time?
What do you do with your time that makes it worthwhile? And how do you not make sure your kids, how do you make sure your kids don't end up as spoiled, rotten brats, right? Like, it was just very fascinating and awesome conversations of thinking about, because that's what I'm talking about. You reach that goal and you think, oh, as soon as we make this amount of money, or as soon as we, you know, reach this point. I remember thinking that back in our days when we were broke and we lived on like $1,000 a month. I remember thinking, oh man, if we made like $10,000 a month, like that would just be the best. But like, we reached that past point and went past it, and okay, great. What's the next thing? Like, how do you find the meaning and purpose along the way? Because there's always bigger goals and dreams and also other things that can distract you and draw you away from your purpose. So the goal's not to reach the goals. the goal is to become the kind of person who is consistently growing and developing and becoming their best self. And as long as you're doing that, there's always another level, because you're never perfect. There's always another level of awesomeness
and opportunity and potential.
opportunity and
Oh, I
potential,
love that.
right?
So good. Okay, let's shift gears. So there's some super awesome questions here about
there
morning.
were a couple comments that were related to this. I'm not sure that we did address. One was about hope. Maybe we kind of.
Well, I think we hit in there. Yeah, if you're doing recovery, you're revisiting your whys. If you're revisiting your strategy, if you're trying to get results and you feel like you're not getting any results, look at your strategy and look at it like a 2-week period and lean into it big time to make sure you get results. Because if you feel like you're working hard and nothing changes, man, then you're very often you're doing it wrong. You need some strategy adjustments.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to make, is that this is why it's good to have this new view of life. Because if you look at it and you're like, I keep working and I keep working and I keep working and I'm not getting the results I want, something's off in your strategy. You should be seeing results if you've got the right strategies in place. And if you're not seeing the results, then there is something that's off. So that's why it's helpful, because to just keep hoping and working hard, that's not enough. Hope and working hard is not a good enough strategy. You have to take why can't I think of this word that means to like back off? And you have to have this pause to look at your life from a different angle and say, wait a second, I keep working and I'm not getting the results. Like, what's off here? What am I missing? That's another good question. Like, what am I missing? I'm doing this and I'm trying to get this and it's not working. What's missing? Okay, that's something you need to do. Just hoping that it's going to keep working or it's going to work out if you just keep doing the same thing is not good.
There has been one thing, actually, can I share this, you guys? Just totally heartfelt here. Everybody listen up to this one because it's a little bit tricky. There have been instances where people are working hard, doing the right things and not getting results. And in some of those instances, the stickiness where they were getting stuck was either a mindset or a heart set. Something mentally or emotionally was blocking. There was a blockage. So they were doing the right thing. They were doing it hard. They were rolling along, but there was a mental or emotional block. And once that block was removed, sometimes it's disbelief. Sometimes it's a deep insecurity. Sometimes a lack mentality. Sometimes holding on to something from your past. And that creates a blockage. And once that blockage is removed, then the strategies actually work better.
Yes. So in that case, you could be doing the right strategies per se, but they're not working because things are off here or both, or they're incongruent, right? We've talked about congruence before. If your thoughts are trying to be positive, but your emotions are primarily negative or stress or worry, then you're not congruent and you're going to feel stuck and you're going to feel like you're working and not making progress. Wait, did you see that other comment?
Yeah, let's hit this though. We'll come down to it in a minute. Yeah, we'll come back to it.
Okay,
so a couple great questions here. We'll try to be concise. A couple great questions about morning routines. So do all of our kids have a very set morning routine?
And I would say
it depends on the kid.
No.
Yeah, they don't all have one. We have basic principles and practices that we want them all to do. Get up and get ready for the day, make their bed, ideally when we've got a bed to make.
Some of them are sleeping on the floor
or
right now.
sleep in hammocks or in hammocks. But we want them doing, like some form of prayer, meditation, reading from sacred texts, reading, language study. We have apps they're using or because we're on the road, we don't have a lot of workbooks, but we have apps they're using for language, for science, for grammar. We want them to hit those primary things and then exercise with us.
I think the short answer though is we've taught the basic principles, like we've discussed them in family devotionals and discussions, but ultimately they decide. So their routines all look very different depending on their age and their personal interests. But I mean, that being said, yeah, in general, they've all got some sort of routine they're working on in the morning that they just get up and they just do. Now, my 10-year-old, you know, he requires a little more motivation. Even sometimes my 7-year-old has a better morning routine than he does. She's, you know, a little precocious, but his motivation is he'll want to do certain things, you know, he'll want to use his device for something or play, or he'll want to, you know, play a little game on his app, an app game or something. And I'm like, that for him becomes the leverage for doing his routine. So like this morning, he's not yet into working out, which is fine. But so while we were all working out, he did his Duolingo. He's learning German. We have this app called Epic that's great. It's got like all kinds of kids books on there. So he did reading on there. And then he did his math. So he did all of that while we were working out, right? So that's, well, and then he had to shower. I said, well, you've got to shower before you can use your device, right? So I help him with his morning routine by nicely leveraging the things he wants to do by having him do the things he needs to do. So I'm like, okay, you want to use your device, go shower. And so he does his shower, you know. So in that way, I'm helping him with this morning routine by him knowing, oh, I've got these prerequisites I've got to do in order to do the things I want to do. But with the older kids, they just, yeah, I think we've taught the principle enough and we model it because we do it ourselves, that they now each just get up and do their morning routines. Now they all get up at different times, and they get up at different times each day depending on when they went to bed. But they're generally, like my 17-year-old now, he's up before I am.
Yeah,
usually.
he's usually up around 5:30.
And he reads from like As a Man Thinketh, and he meditates, and he does Wim Hof breathing, and I don't even know what else he does. He does a workout.
Hard workouts, and then he's watching training it.
And then
getting
he's
into art and music,
doing art classes, and yeah, so he's pretty dialed into his routine. Same with even my 14-year-old. She gets up later, but she's, same thing. She's working out and she's doing
and they're all
audiobooks.
They're all praying and spending time in scripture. And I mean, again, we've been modeling and teaching for so long that they're actually pretty good at it. So they're hitting these.
But then at
principles.
The same time, I think my 15-year-old boy struggles a little more with his morning routine. Well, I guess I'm comparing him to Parker.
Don't compare your kids to each other.
Sorry.
That's a good lesson right there.
He gets up later and he doesn't seem to.
But no, he's still doing it. He still
yes,
hits it. And then I talked to him. He's like, yeah, I did all this stuff. I'm like, oh, man, that's amazing.
Okay.
Okay. So, and Charlie asked a question like, well, how do you set your morning routine? What's the process? And I think we touched on it right there. But here's what I want to say to all of you. Come up with a morning process that gets you in the right headspace. What is it that gets you fired up, ready, thrilled, excited, energized, filled for the day? Well, and very often we wake up in a funk, or we wake up into our negative thinking. I can't believe it. And it surprises me how many clients I work with, how many people just wake up into like blah,
like another day. Well, this is an important point because we had this conversation with our kids, because there was a point where they're like, oh, I want to start getting up earlier. And then they'd get up and they were like, this is like, I don't know what to do. And I'm bored and I just fall back to sleep. And they're like, what's the point? So we were like, well, yeah, you've got to have some reason and you've got to be excited about getting up. And I even had this conversation with my 17-year-old a while ago because he was getting up and he was trying to do, I don't know, dad's morning routine or somebody's morning routine. And I'm like, well, you need to get up and do whatever you want to do. Like what gets you excited and do that thing. So for some of them, it's like right away working out because they put on the music and it gets them motivated and pumped and they like to do that. Some of them it's meditating. It's like whatever is going to get you excited to get out of bed. That's what should be a part of your morning routine. if you're feeling like you have to get up and do stuff that you really don't want to do, like that doesn't help you get out of bed in the morning and to get up early.
And it doesn't help you be excited about your morning or your day. So I don't know. I can't emphasize enough what your morning routine needs to help you get in the right headspace. Like you got to get in your right headspace. So whatever you do for your morning routine, it's got to get in the right headspace. Wow, this is amazing. They just brought us our anniversary breakfast. Look at this. Wow. Oh yes, so awesome. Because we've been doing intermittent fasting too. So we finished dinner like around 5:30 or 6. We're done with dinner, and then we don't eat breakfast until late. So we'll eat breakfast at 10 now. So our eating window is 10 to 6, right? That's good. So hopefully that's helpful. Whatever you do, like get in the right headspace. Okay, so here's a follow-up question. When you have like 6 different things to do, meditation, language, exercise, sacred text, journaling, it sounds kind of exhausting, like a checklist to do. But I like what Rachel was saying before about pause in between doing different things. Yeah. And if that list sounds exhausting to you and it doesn't feel like it's filling you, it feels like it's wearing you out. You wake up and you're like, I have more stuff to do.
Make a different list.
Make a different list or just pick 1 or 2 of them. What we're saying is do things that fill you and energize you. For me and for Rachel, doing all of those things are like energizing, exciting, fulfilling. They give you rest and recovery. Like I do those things and I feel so peaceful and excited. And I'm ready to just crush it. Bring anything on that day. I'm going to nail it because I've done those morning things that fill me.
And I would say, like, I have a list to do all of that stuff, but I don't do all of them every day. Yesterday I didn't work out because I took my daughter and her friend to go get a COVID test instead, right? But I did do reading and meditating, right? So I did what I could when I woke up, but I didn't do all of it. So you don't have to feel like you have to do everything every day. Have a list to work from, and then sometimes maybe it'll change. Maybe you'll get up and you'll be like, man, I just feel like meditating the whole morning routine. Great. Or maybe I want to exercise. I want to do an extra workout today or whatever. But I want to emphasize this point of like, the goal is to do what you want to do.
Yes. What excites you.
Not to feel like this is a to-do list, but to feel like I'm getting up ideally earlier than my kids. So I have me time to do something that I'm excited to do. Maybe it's something totally different. Maybe it's writing. Maybe it's making a podcast. Maybe it's
walking,
whatever, jumping, skinny dipping. I don't know.
Whoa, go for it. Go bomb it in the ocean.
I just know that some of our kids have done some skinny dipping. So that's why I thought of
in the cold. They're hilarious.
In the cold ocean.
You know, I have one thing though that I've been doing lately that it combines all 3 of those things, Charlie. I listen to the Bible in French and walk. So I'm hitting 3 things for me that I love. And I'm like, I move my body, I'm getting some language in and sacred text. I love that. And I listen to it, right? So I'm out, I go out, right now we're by the ocean. So I go out near the ocean and do those things. I'm like, this is great. What a great way to start the day. I love that one. Okay, last question, then we got to wrap up and eat our breakfast. And this is a good one. It was a private text we got. You guys can send us direct messages all the time. Just whatever is in your heart. I feel like one of my biggest struggles for me is that my husband and I aren't always on the same page or the same desires. I feel like it's hard to relate to you guys sometimes because you work together and you don't live a traditional way, right? We're crazy.
It's true.
Even with your kids, you're always on the same page. Not always. We'll get on that. I would love some more stories from you guys when you weren't always on the same page and how you still move forward individually and how you gravitated towards sharing the same visions.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for asking that.
Yeah.
Because Rachel and I are on the same page a lot, but it hasn't always been that way, and it isn't always that way. And we'll we'll actually have really strong opinions because we both read insane amounts of stuff, and we're reading and learning different things, and we're thoughtful, opinionated people. We'll have very different ideas about things. But I think we have some boundaries and some ground rules that we can work through that. I can listen to her, she can listen to me. We can work through it again. There's been a couple times when we're like, I'm sorry, I just disagree with you. I just do. Right? And we'll work through it again. And we always strive to maintain our cool, not make it personal.
Always strive to maintain our cool, but don't always maintain our cool.
Right? And then like if we disagree, and you guys, I think maybe sometimes we haven't brought this up enough because most of the time we are on the same page. And you see the dynamic, how we work together.
But again, where we are now, the life we have, being on the same page, having our kids being, for the most part, bought into our life philosophy, although not 100% with all of them. This is something that we did grow into and have intentionally created.
Yep.
So that's a part of it. So the fact that we weren't always that way is a part of the story, right? We came to this point by being very intentional and following all the strategies and principles that we're teaching you. Like, that's why we feel we can teach this, because we started from there. And we have what we have now because we've used these things that have worked. So that's, I think that's something we should definitely emphasize more, is that we didn't start from where we are now. We had to grow into this, and we had to create it, and we had to work hard for it. And we've cried, and
I didn't cry.
Yeah, I think you've cried sometimes.
Just kidding.
We've cried, we've doubted, we've feared, like every emotion you can think of, we've gone through. We've failed, we've fallen on our faces, we've almost given up. Like, we've been there, we get it.
I think a perfect example of this is when we moved to Georgia.
Oh,
nobody wanted to move to Georgia.
Wanted to move there
except
for me.
Rachel. She was the only one that wanted to go, and I was like, I don't want to go. And the kids were like, we don't want to go, and I don't want to go. We don't want to go. And I guess this illustrates. I want to share this because it illustrates your principle, you guys. If you want to get on the same page with your spouse or your kids or others, like, well, learn the principles of persuasion for one, but really learn
a lot of persuading.
Oh, tons. And at the end of the day, you guys, she persuaded. I still disagreed, but we decided, okay, we're going because she wants this so much. We're going to go. And so we went to Georgia for Rachel, right? Took the whole family, went. None of us really liked it. But it was the right thing. It really was a great thing.
They all, because here's the other thing. I didn't pick going to Georgia just because I wanted to go to Georgia. I have an aunt and uncle that live in Georgia. We actually lived in Georgia like 10 years ago before we lived in India. And I felt like that was where our family was supposed to be. Now, I feel part of that was because 6 months after we moved there, COVID happened. So I was extremely grateful that we weren't stuck in, because we were connected with the traveling community, and I heard some bad stories of people being quarantined in small apartments in big cities.
Oh,
couldn't get out, couldn't get anywhere. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that was not us. We had a nice house on a lake, with the woods. So our quarantine experience was very nice and pleasant. We were also there for my aunt and uncle. Like, I just felt like we were supposed to be there. They don't have any kids, they don't have any grandkids, and they got to have the whole grandkid experience. We spent awesome. 2 Christmases with them.
That was amazing.
So the point was, I felt strongly like that was where we were supposed to be, even though he didn't want to be there and my kids didn't want to be there.
And here's how this worked out: is she was able to articulate her feelings and desires again and again. And so that I deeply understood what this meant to her.
I was able to, when he questioned it or doubted it or presented opposing opinions and views, to be able to, first of all, think about them and say, well, maybe he's right. And think about how that could be true and all of that. And this was a process of months, right? It didn't just happen like that. It was a process of months of this back and forth conversation of him being like, well, no, I don't really want to go there. And this is why, and here's the reasons and the valid arguments. And then I would take him and I would think about him and I would, try to see how he was actually right. And then I would come back to, yeah, that could be true, but here's what I actually think still.
You see
and
that?
I still believe that this is what we're supposed to do. And so we have this ongoing conversation and debate.
And she didn't yell and scream at me and act like crazy or make me feel resentful towards the decision. Right. And then I was calmly saying, oh, I disagree. I don't want to do that. It's the last place in the world I want to go. Right. I was able to talk to her and she listened. You see, these principles matter. And then we would discuss it. Now, in other situations, we'd actually read books together too. If there was some difference, we'd read the same book. Then we'd discuss it. We'd listen to a podcast and discuss it. We'd go through, try to get a third party idea and principle and then discuss it and keep our cool, hear each other out.
And keeping your cool doesn't mean, you can get passionate, intense, and it doesn't mean you don't have passion, but you're not trying to be rude or attacking or belittling, right? That's what we mean by keeping our cool. The cool, it's not trying to be like, yeah, I'm better and I think my idea is better and your idea sucks, and
And she's not going to scream at me and be like, you never support me, right? It's because that doesn't help. And so,
but I think that again, this is something we had to learn. This is a skill we had to learn through practice, and we've made plenty of mistakes. Like there have been times in our marriage where I did yell and he yelled and all those types of things. Like it didn't happen automatically. We had to learn through practice, right? But the point is, I think that when we can learn to, I guess I want to say control our emotions. So first we're learning to control what we're feeling, or to be able to appropriately articulate what we're feeling, and then to be able to communicate effectively what it is we're thinking. And sometimes this requires taking a break, which I think is good. Like he might say something, I might say something, and then we take a break to think about it and analyze how we actually feel, and then come back with new thoughts and new ideas said in an articulate way, instead of just yelling emotion, right? Because when you just yell emotion, or you just, share strong negative emotion, that doesn't help you intellectually, reasonably solve the problem. And ultimately, that's what it has to come down to. You have to be able to articulate what you want so well that your spouse can understand it, and vice versa. And when you can learn how to do that, then you can learn how to bridge the gaps of differences in what you want. And in some cases, again, he ultimately decided, I don't really think we're supposed to move to Georgia. I don't really want to move to Georgia, but if you really think like this is what we're supposed to do, then we'll do that. And we did. And then later, the kids and Greg were going to say, well, yeah, we don't like being here per se, but we can see why we were supposed to be here.
Yep.
And then we'll be moving.
In
when we still have our house in Georgia. When we go back in the summer, we're gonna be moving out of it. So,
but I think,
and I'm fine with that.
I think we'll wrap up.
Our time there is
with that. Like, learn how to understand yourself, what you're feeling, what you desire, what you want. Wrap your mind so well around a certain idea, and then practice being persuasive with it and sharing it, helping them understand.
You can practice in your own head. You can practice, like sometimes I'll do that.
Conversation.
I will be having conversations with Greg or whoever in my head while I'm in the shower, thinking through, okay, they said this.
And then she comes out and she says, I told you. I'm like, no, you didn't.
doesn't
She's always like, no, I brought that up. I'm like, no, you must have done that in your head because you did not tell me that.
But I will.
That's
I'll
our ongoing
practice
joke.
articulating it and arguing or debating my points of view, right? And like, well, this is what I think, and this is how I would say it. And so, yeah, it's definitely something you can practice. And I think that right there, like being able, I love the word articulate. Like it's one of my favorite words, I think. Being able to effectively articulate what you're thinking and feeling is one of the most powerful ways to persuade people and persuade and influence. And that right there is the key. If you want to get people on the same page, meaning your spouse and your children, you have to learn to articulate. And if there's a gift I have, I think that's one of my gifts. Articulating.
Babe, you got lots
And
of
if I
gifts.
don't know, oh, thanks, babe. Sweet. If I don't know how to convince him, and if I feel like I can't convince him, then I go do my research and I go think and pray and ponder and write about it. And like, I figure out exactly why so well that I can say it convincingly so that they're like, yeah, okay, you're right. Or I at least see your point and why we're doing it.
Yeah.
And yeah, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss is excellent. Chris Voss also has a masterclass on masterclass.com that my kids have watched and they love it. And they love that book.
He was an FBI hostage negotiator. So you're like, that seems a little intense for persuasion. But what he does, he hits just the fantastic elements of human psychology and the important pieces of really being able to communicate well and help people feel understood and acknowledged. And once they feel that, oh man, it's amazing.
Crucial for communicating with your spouse and children. Like that's a crucial skill to have.
Okay. Boom. Love you guys. Be more strategic about all the stuff you're doing and put these things in place, these simple practices, so you can stay motivated.
Strategy makes a huge difference.
Yep. Stay motivated. Keep pursuing your goals. Keep getting the results you want and creating the life you want. Love you guys. Have an absolutely fantastic day and the rest of your week. Reach upward.